Well, hello, Patreon community. So excited that you are here, that we have this opportunity to come together, to connect, and to be in a space where, once again, I get to share these beautiful transmissions, which is just consciousness, God, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it. It is activating an awareness of what has been written in these Course in Miracles sessions, specifically to help us ascend, very specifically to get us to the point where we can fully understand what the Course is attempting to do for us, which is to offer us complete 100% liberation from the limitation that we think is our reality. The Course is designed to meet us wherever we are. I would say that everyone that enters the teachings of the Course is at some level of believing the world is real. Now, inside of that belief that the world is real, there are different levels of reality to the world, of solidity to the world. When I started A Course in Miracles, I was already, I believe, about 7-8 years into my journey. So the world wasn't so solid for me. I already was very comfortable intellectually with the understanding that energy equals the world that we see. As Einstein said, E equals MC squared. I didn't have to convince myself that I'm energy. I came to the Course in Miracles already aware that every fiber of my beingness, every ounce of this being that I call Laina is energy. And I also knew that there are different levels of the energetic field. There's the soul level, which is absolutely completely at the lightest possible level. That would be operating from our 5D consciousness. The next level in is the mental level. That's where the mind has to make a decision while still non-physical, that the physical body is real, that separation is real. That is the beginning stages of entering, descending into 4D. Because when we come to the 3D planet experience, we come from at least 5D or beyond. And then we enter into that 4D realm, which is where we are making the descent into solidity, where the mind is shifting from the soul body, from knowing we are the eternal self, to beginning the condensation of the mind. That's not the right word. The contraction, that's the correct word. Thank you. The contraction of the mind begins so that we can experience the process of incarnating, taking on a physical body. To incarnate means you identify with the body. That is the level that comes beyond the level of mind. I mean, it's these are levels inward. If you think of concentric circles, you're moving inwardly. Then we also have the emotional body, which is actually before the physical body. I used to have a photo. Let me see if I can quickly find that photo, because it might be helpful to understand what I'm talking about from that perspective. But if I can't find it right now, I will at some point create a quick little video and I'll post it in Patreon to explain what I'm talking about. And I don't know if I am going to find that immediately. So let me come back to that and not use up our time in that search. Anyways, I will go ahead and utilize the whiteboard on here in Zoom. Can you guys see the whiteboard? Yes, perfect. Thank you. All right. So when we are non-physical, we are all the whole whiteboard. That's what we are. That is God. God is everything. It's a whole whiteboard. Our soul is an aspect of God. Our soul is the first big circle that forms what most of us understand as our Merkaba. This is our energy field. This is who we really truly are, is an aspect. So all of us have souls. That's just who we are. If there are lots of souls on this planet, and of course in the universe, but we're talking about just our own individual soul. Our soul body, that energy field, many people call it our aura. There are lots of different names for it. Inside of the soul, there is a decision to incarnate. The decision is done at the mental body. That is the next level within, where we begin the process of being more condensed, more contracted. Then we make the decision to have a physical experience. That physical experience that we are going to enter into is possible because we have an emotional body, and it's inside of that. Let me see about how good my drawing is. It's going to look like a little gingerbread person here. Sorta. So here we have, this is our soul body. And I don't know if I can type there or not, but anyhow, so this is the soul body. This is the mental body where we make the decision to incarnate. This is our physical body that we identify with. Right here is our emotional body. When a baby enters incarnation, it has a physical vessel, but the physical body is not yet programmed with information, with name, with church, religion, political affiliation, financial status. Is it black? Is it white? It doesn't have that, but it is encapsulated in an emotional field. That's that emotional body. What happens is that emotional body is what's informing us. Am I safe? Am I not safe? If I'm not feeling safe, because we all know, we walk into a movie theater and you go find a seat and you don't have to talk to the person sitting there. You can kind of feel like that's not the right place for you to sit. That's because your soul body is huge. It doesn't care who you're next to. The mental body made a decision to go to the movie theater. It wants to be there. Then the emotional body feels there's something off here. It senses what's happening, and then it tells the physical body, let's go somewhere else. We've all been in parties and group settings where we can feel who to be with and who not to be with. We don't touch them to determine, we don't go to the physical body to determine, are you safe or not? That happens at the emotional level. There is a sensing mechanism. Anyways, I'm saying all of this because it's important that we understand all of these different levels that we are operating at in our human incarnation. When we come to the Course in Miracles from a mind place, all you're going to do is fill your mind with information about it. If you don't process it through the emotional or process the emotional parts of ourselves that have been creating a solidity, an emotional immaturity, then the physical can't do the healing that is necessary. So if you come to A Course in Miracles from a place where you understand that the body holds the emotional part, and you come to A Course in Miracles with a mind that is understanding that thoughts create realities, but you also understand that emotions is important. We need to be, our emotional field needs to be clear so that we can begin to respond correctly and not reactively. Well, the Course in Miracles wants us to understand that we have two belief systems. One belief system from a soul perspective is absolutely the way that we operate in the world is determined from the Holy Spirit, because mind, emotional, and physical, that's what we call it, mind, body, spirit. All three of those fields, those energy fields around us, are operating in tandem. That means your mind is very clear. in terms of doesn't have to be righteous. I don't need to know everything. I can come to the Course in Miracles totally open-minded and with a willingness to receive information that whether I'm ready to apply it or not, I'm not going to come argue with it because I know that I've been drawn to it for a specific reason. When we're at that level of awareness, the processing becomes so much easier, so much smoother, and dare I say, faster, because you are not resisting anything. Course in Miracles can take you to the deepest depths where you really get comfortable with knowing that you are just pure energy. If you come to the Course in Miracles, heavy in your physical reality being what is the only thing that is real, very identified with the ego, very righteous about who you are. Typically, Course in Miracles, you open it up and you go, I don't understand this. This is Greek. I can't get a word. I don't get it. You might read a couple of lessons, you get to that first lesson. And I mean, most people, when they get to that very first lesson and they realize, wow, let me tell you lesson number 1, nothing I see means anything. They're like, this is insane. Everything means something. Well, that level of solidity, the Course cannot penetrate that solidity. The next level is a level of curiosity. Probably somebody who has done some emotional work. They've seen a therapist, or they have processed with a life coach, with maybe a parent or a friend, or somebody guided them into feeling their feelings and releasing just condensed energy, old thought patterns that get solidified based on fear, based on anger, based on feeling deceived or abused in some level, emotional, physical, mental, doesn't matter. There's a willingness to feel. Those people will get so much more out of the Course because the Course has so many exercises about being present to the thoughts, being present to what the ego tells us. And of course, if the ego's telling us, Dad hurt me, there's going to be an emotional aspect to that as well. So if you come prepared to hear the thought that I have been hurt, and you let yourself feel the emotion, now the Holy Spirit can help you begin to learn the primary thing that the Course teaches is forgiveness. We're forgiving the hurt. We're not forgiving the thought that hurt me. We're forgiving the hurt that was felt at a physical level and held at an emotional level. So when we forgive the hurt that I experienced at the hands of somebody else, we are then better prepared to change our mind about ourselves, of course, about others. But if I can feel the hurt and I can say, you know what, they did the best that they could. They must have been completely unaware of what they were doing to me. Their pain was about them. They inflicted that pain on me, and I no longer want to carry this pain. I'm willing to feel it and forgive the pain that was inflicted. And then we go to the next level where the mind reorients itself, pulls us out of being a child that got abused, enters us into the adult that we are today, mature, who is deciding to shift our perception about who we are. Now I'm no longer the victim to my dad. I begin to accept, you know what? I'm a powerful creator. I'm a powerful creator, and I can create the reality that I want. That happened. We don't deny what happened. We deny that it has power to make us a victim. We take full control of being, and you could call it a victor of the situation. So you elevate yourself from the physical body that was abused to the emotional. You feel it. You then go to the level of the mind that changes its mind. So those are the different levels that we come to A Course in Miracles in. And then, of course, we can come at the level of soul. If you are operating from the awareness that you are non-physical, having a physical experience, and your mind is trained in not reacting, but in observing your thoughts, your ability to feel emotionally anything that comes up, to feel it and release it, because you're releasing from your body. You're not releasing from your head. Your head, you're changing beliefs. You shift from fear to loving beliefs, from, and I don't want to call it negative to positive, because those are polarities that are of the ego. We neutralize them. So the mind neutralizes thoughts by thinking something different. Dad hurt me, that's bad. To, okay, dad was where dad was. He inflicted abuse, or mom or whoever it is, I'm not picking on dads, inflicted abuse from his or her level of hurt. So they were projecting that on me, but I am not I'm not who they think I am. I'm who, God created me to be. Then you can feel the feels and release what is in that. And that cleanses the body. That allows the body to be lighter, that's because what we're enlightening is 3 levels. The mind has to be enlightened. The light bulb has to come on where we see that we didn't come in with any of these thoughts. So where did these thoughts come from that create our suffering? We learn them. And that then ding, 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 ding comes on. So at a soul level, I came in, made a decision that this is real, then my mind got programmed. Yes. Then my energy field collected, because when we're pre-verbal, when we don't speak as children, and we don't know words yet, we don't understand belief systems, we're not indoctrinated yet, we feel. That's all we can do. We feel. And it is when we have felt so much pain and suffering at the hands of those unconscious parents, teachers, preachers that are totally, completely in their ego mind, we begin to desensitize ourselves. It's a beautiful mechanism that has us basically survive the insanity. We desensitize ourselves and lock down those emotions that our soul chose to incarnate and have these experiences so that we could bring love and light to the planet, help mom and dad see the light, maybe teachers and preachers see the light. But because we have incarnated at a time, most of us, before there were as many incarnated beings that are of love and light, shining their light brightly, we tended to not shine our light so brightly because we were called troublemakers or black sheeps, or we were told, that you're not following rules and you're difficult, whatever that was. We hold on to those feelings we don't want to feel, and we suppress them, depress them, and it makes our body very dense. Oftentimes with sicknesses, with illnesses, with all kinds of things that are, the term dis-ease is because we're not at ease in our emotional field. So we come to the Course in Miracles at all those different levels of awareness, not only of our different bodies, but different levels of thought processes, different levels of healing. And we get what we get based on where we're at. The Course meets us exactly where we are. When we apply what the Course is teaching us, and we can feel the feels, we can release the old pent-up emotions, when we can shift our thought system and we begin to think with our soul self, not with our human self, our mind clears up, our mind lightens up. And as our mind lightens up, our emotional field lightens up, then the body has to lighten up. The body has to go through a process of purification. Humanity right now, here we are, August 10th, 2022, humanity is on a planet that is ascending. Whether we understand it or not, it doesn't matter, it's happening. Whether we understand that we're one energy field, that everything is one, it doesn't matter if we understand it or not, it's happening. Waking up is the process of beginning to understand what's happening so that we can be active participants in the process of ascension. To ascend is to move from the physical body running our lives, the emotional body running our lives, the mental body running our lives, to aligning with the soul that is closest to our God self. It's an aspect of God, and everything has a soul because everything is in this, specifically to this 3D world, everything is God, non-physical, and aspects of God just take on the fields, the bodies that are necessary to have specific experiences. When we ascend and begin to see everything as the Holy Spirit sees it, Holy Spirit, whole itself, Holy Soul, it doesn't matter what we call it. It's our most expanded self. Some people call that our higher self. When you can move to that outer self that is observing what your mind is doing, it observes and feels the emotions, it observes what the body is going through from up here. Now you have an awareness that you're not your thoughts, your emotions, or your body. From that place, you're observing, and you are the presence of awareness correcting. You're correcting. My knee hurts. Okay, what if we know we're not a body, that pain is coming from an emotional, it's going to have an emotional component. Then you can sit with your knee. Knee, what is it that you need me to know? Because there's a consciousness that is compassionate and kind and gentle, that is focused on correcting the misinformation that we experience in the world. We're not judging, we're not blaming, we're beyond all that. We're correcting, we're self-correcting. We're our own intuitive, medical intuitive. We're our own life coach. We are our own guru. And from that place, knee, why do I need to know that it's causing this discomfort? And you become really familiar with the body. There's lots of teachers that teach about the body, that teach about what the left side means, the right side means, that teaches about all of the different chakras. So there's all kinds of teachers that came to the planet to bring specific information about the body. So you get to the body, you start the conversation, then you get to the emotion that is held in the body, and you can feel, where did this come from? Oh, I fell when I was a little girl, and the dog, caused me to fall and trip, and I banged my knee, and I'm holding in that knee the emotional fear that I had because the dog tripped me and nobody was around me to help me get up, and I was there by myself, and I was 4 years old, and I was scared that I just got tripped. All right, so we meet that 4-year-old and we acknowledge to that 4-year-old, yes, the dog walked in front of you and tripped you and you banged your knee, or any other example. Do we want to continue to carry that fear? Or can we today say it's okay to release the fear that I experienced when I was alone? Because that fear of being alone when I got hurt keeps us avoiding ever being alone, because each time that we're alone, we're going to get hurt. So the knee holds the pain of the unprocessed emotions. Then we got to change our mind. We got to change our thought about that particular experience. Is it true that I cannot be alone because that's when I get hurt? No, I've been hurt in front of a bunch of people. Okay, so then we start breaking up that belief. Is it true that when I am alone, and now that it doesn't have to happen just when I'm alone, is it true that I am alone in this world? No, there's lots of people. Is it true that I am alone in this universe? No, I'm connected to everything. So then if I'm connected to everything and there's lots of people on the planet, was I really alone when I got hurt? No, not really. There were people around. They may not have been right there with me. So you begin to break the solidity of the belief. When I'm alone, I get hurt. And that scares me. All right. Well, I wasn't alone. So you take that equation away. Did I get hurt? Yes. Did it scare me? Yes. Okay. Now we can take we analyze the hurt. Did I get hurt? Yes, I fell. Did that keep me from walking? No. So was it a hurt that was just a fell and I got up? Yeah. So I fell and I got up. Yeah. Had I been walking all my life? Yeah. Wonderful. So then the hurt is not a temporary, or it's not a permanent hurt. It was just a temporary thing. And all of us get bumps and bruises, but it's not a permanent thing. So then we get rid of the solidity of the hurt. Yeah, I walked up and have been fine since. All right, we got rid of the alone. We got rid of the hurt part. Now we look at the the part about the scared. Why was I scared? Well, I was scared because I was little and a dog crossed in front of me and I fell. Does that make sense to be scared? Yeah. Does it make sense to be, how old are you? I'm 60 years old. Does it make sense to be scared of falling, of being alone, of letting those things run your life for the next, you're a little child, let's say you're 5. I want to do easy math. 5 when that happened and you're 60, I'm 60. For 55 years, you're walking around with scared of being alone, scared of getting hurt. Scared runs your life. So you avoid being alone. You avoid everything. I'm not going to go out there. I'm not going to put myself out into the world because I don't want to fall. That's what happens when we have beliefs that go unquestioned. They create solidity that gets stored in those fields. It gets stored in the body, in the emotions, and in the mind. So those 3 things, mind, body, emotions, carry the solidity of the ego. Course in Miracles wants us to break that down, wants us to break it up and release it. It's energy that is trapped. And when we have trapped energy, everything that we do is about controlling circumstances, because fear, being scared, being afraid, runs the show. That's what our ego does. Now, everything is about contraction. When you look at the world today and you see those who are attempting to run the world, they're the most scared of everybody. They're trying to contract. They're trying to get rid of humanity, make it so that it's the smallest group possible. So they want to contract and be just by themselves, the only people that they trust. We are breaking up the solidity and expanding into knowing that there's no need to be afraid. We're all made of energy. We don't need to have a fear that there's too many people on the planet. We don't need to be afraid of that because everybody is made of the same energy. We don't need to be in a state of thinking that we are alone and we better take control of what's happening. So we are being invited through the Course in Miracles to really expand our mind, because when we move out to the soul body, and we realize how powerful we are, that's where healing comes in. Our ability to have a fun, happy, joyful life. This is why God created us with a purpose to be happy. You've got to get to the soul body. You've got to expand and be aware that you're not a body, you're not your emotions, and you're not just your mind. You have all those things. They're there for you to use them, but we misuse those things when we are not trained how to use them properly. It's like a vehicle. It has things that need to be used, but we've got to be trained how to use the car properly. I know my children, we took the time to teach them about oil changes and pressure for the tires, and taught them how to clean the car and how to service it, how to take it in for those inspections and whatever. Their cars ran great. I've got a friend, didn't teach her son that. And what happened to the car? Never put oil in it, the engine blew up. Well, same thing with our body vessel, same thing with our emotional body. We were born to a bunch of people who didn't teach us how to take care of those things because they didn't know. Now more of us are expanding, ascending to the higher perspective, the higher frequency, to the place of love, and gently, compassionately, we're teaching one another how to move out of those places where we have been stuck. And in that stuck energy, that's where people are in survival mode. That's where control comes in, manipulation, and that's why the world is in the mess that it's in. So Course in Miracles came in to help us elevate our consciousness, ascend and see things the way God wants us to see it. We're all divine beings having a human experience. Yes, it's possible for all of us to get along. We all can get along because we are all one with each other anyways. So as we remove the thoughts and beliefs that keep us separate, as we move out of these divisions in politics, these divisions in religion, divisions in financial status, divisions in gender, and in all of those things, culture, as we let all of that go, we find that we all are the same. We just want to have fun. We want to enjoy being free to do what we want to do. We all want to be treated equally. But you can't treat each other equally if you stand on this side. I'm a conservative. I'm not a liberal. If we take sides, we can't get to where we are all one. So we have to train our mind to not stand for sides, but come to the neutral middle where we can realize that we all want the same thing. But to get to that place, the Course in Miracles takes us on an incredible journey. And today we're going to look at lesson 104, which is a continuation of the lesson that we did last week, 103. All that we're studying here is understanding that God created us to be happy. God gave us one purpose. We share the purpose of saving the world. And by salvation, the Course means sparing ourselves of this suffering. So we have been on this beautiful journey where we have gone through, we started with lesson number 100, and we looked at my part is essential in God's plan for salvation. Then we looked at God wills for us perfect happiness. Last week, previous week, we looked at I share God's will for happiness for me, meaning I'm willing to receive all that goodness. Then last week, we looked at God being love is also happiness. So our mind is being trained in ascension to the higher frequencies of recognizing not only did God create us in a beautiful, loving way, created us in its image to be creators in our own right. Fortunately, we cannot undo what God created. We can't mess up what the highest level created, but we can create for ourselves a lot of suffering. And we can reverse that by shifting our perception. But to shift our perception, which means to change our mind, we have to train our mind first in observing what's in the mind. We have to first enter the realm of honesty. Am I thinking a thought that creates for me to be afraid? Once we say, yes, my thoughts are creating my fear, we are entering into the space of realizing our thoughts create our reality. Once we get to our thoughts create our reality, then we begin to look at, well, what did God create? God's reality is that it's all love. My thoughts create that I'm scared because I fell when I was little and banged my knee because a dog ran in front of me. Okay, so I create the reality of being scared inside of the reality that God has for me, that it wants me to be happy. God wanted me to, God didn't want me to fall. That's not the way that it is. God wanted me to have whatever experience I wanted to have because God's right there experiencing it with me because it's the same energy. So I fall. If I would have been with conscious parents, when the fall happens, then the conscious parent would have said, hey, sweetie, you're fine. You're okay. You fell, it banged your knee, but who you are is not affected by this. What can we do to take care of the knee? Oh, there's a scrape, need a Band-Aid, you need some ointment or whatever. And feeling the love of being cared for in that moment, there's no, I'm afraid to be alone and I get hurt when I'm alone. You don't create all those thoughts. So we have to understand, what does the creator really think? I'm powerful. What does my little mind create? I'm weak and scared. Which of these two minds do I want to believe? If we begin the process of ascension, we begin to say, well, God wants me to be happy. Then if I fall, let me be happy that I got up. Let me be happy that I had the experience. And if I broke my leg, let me be happy that I've got a cell phone. Let me call somebody to come and get me. Let me be happy that I've got a mouth and I can yell, hey, I fell. I needed some assistance. Let me be happy that somebody came by and saw that I fell and called somebody because I fell and became unconscious. There's so much to be grateful for that we don't tap into when our mind goes into, it's all about me and, oh my God, I'm afraid, I'm scared, it's my body and something bad happened to it. So here, lesson 104 says, I seek but what belongs to me in truth. I'm done with believing the ego because the ego only tells me made up stories. I only want to seek. I seek but what belongs to me in truth. No more listening to ego talk, no more listening to unconscious people, because I now, from my expanded, ascended perspective, I have resensitized myself enough that I can feel my body now can't lie to me because my mind understands truth. Now I can feel, is this of God? Is this of the ego? Is this expansive? Is this contraction? By the thoughts that we think, because they have a frequency. And when we make a decision, I'm only going to seek but one thing, we are then continuing on the process of ascending to come to the place where we live our lives from our expanded soul self, higher self, whatever you want to call it. This is when you live your life out here. You know you're in the world because you have a body, but you're not of it because you're observing it and you are responding to it compassionately, gently, with tolerance, with trust that this is temporary experience, with awareness that you are energy. Now you are truly the director of your movie. That's what this decision right here, lesson 104. I seek but what belongs to me in truth. I am not going to continue to believe things that are not true. Paragraph number 1 says, today's idea continues with the thought that joy and peace are not but idle dreams. You've got to, this is what we've been looking at in the previous lessons. You have to accept that joy and peace are my reality. If joy and peace are my reality, because they're not an idle dream, then when I am not experiencing joy and peace, what is blocking me from the experience of joy and peace? Well, if I'm not feeling it, then I must be thinking something that opposes that. What thoughts am I believing? That's where the work gets done, because your body gets so purified that then you just focus only on the thought that's arising, because you know you don't have an old, maybe stored emotion. You just go, why am I blocking joy and peace? Because I have a fear that I've got bills to pay and not enough money. Okay, so I'm operating in a space of lack. This is where we can learn to shift and lift our thoughts, move the frequency. And as we move the frequency of our thinking, our physical experience begins to have shifts. But we can open up ourselves to receive abundance. It doesn't have to come from the paycheck. It can come from so many ways. And that's something that humans are not trained into accepting the benevolence, the goodness of a planet of infinite possibilities, infinite abundance, because we're trained into, well, you only get your money when you work for it, and you work for it and you save it, and then you give the government some of it and they give you some back later on, and you retire and you have, if you invested, you have this, that, or the other, or a certain job gives you a pension, or you invested in real estate and you have income. We only know so many ways that abundance can come to us, where abundance can come in so many different ways because we're the creators of our reality. So we're softening our ideas of the rigid way that it can come to us and opening ourselves up to multiple possibilities. So we've got to find out, what are the thoughts that keep us from experiencing joy and peace as a constant state of being? Because at the soul level, joy and peace is all we have. Peace because we're one with everything, we know it. The physical world is not the boss of us. We know it intrinsically. We are one with all that is. We live from that place that we are energy that's been called together, coagulated together to create a physical body. But what runs all of the physical body is a mind that listens to the soul, that listens to the Holy Spirit. So we're aligning mind and spirit together so that we are operating as one, as internally, congruently, so that our physical vessel can have the experience of peace and of joy. Second sentence says, they are your right, joy and peace. They are your right. God says this is our right because of what you are. They come to you from God, who cannot fail to give you what she wills. Yet must there be a place made ready to receive his gifts. If you believe, I don't speak a lot about the Bible because I don't know it. But I know that there are good things, amazing things, channeled things in it, just like in everything else. Because God isn't everything that we experience. So in the Bible, it says that God created everything and looked at it and said it was good. And it tells us that God created us in its image. God imagined us in its image, and God is a creator. Therefore, we must be creators. So when we hear things like this, they come to you from God, who cannot fail to give you what he wills. If we're made by God to experience joy and peace, then God must be joy and peace itself. So when we begin to look at beliefs that we have about God, I know I had to get through the fear of God. God's a vengeful God. God's a, punishing God's going to turn me into stone. All kinds of crazy things. When I was 12 years old, my cousin, a girl cousin, she had an older sister that was all, sexual and whatever. And my cousin said that she wanted to kiss me. So we went back room and we kissed. And then I'm hearing stories from my grandmother about, what is it, Sodom and Gomorrah or something like that. And God turns these people into salt. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to turn to salt. I kissed my girl cousin. And it's crazy things that the mind goes into these fearful places because people are saying things that are not true about God. And we have to understand that anybody who says things about God that are not true must not know God. They must not know that they are loved. This is why they are the most hurting on this planet, people who say things about God that are not true, because they don't understand that they were created themselves by a loving creator that created them to love. So they spread fear because they're in fear of a fearful God that is not real. So all of those beliefs have to be looked at and corrected. So when you look at this and it tells you in sentence number 4, yet must there be a place made ready to receive his gifts. Who has to make it ready? We do. God gives the gift of joy and peace. We need to receive that is our reality by correcting the mind. The mind is the one that has to be ready to receive the truth by not believing the lie. This is where you shift and lift. This is where you shift your perception. You shift from fear of God, that's going to punish me, to, no, God created me for peace and joy. So what? I kissed my cousin. Kids try all kinds of different things. I said I was 12, but actually I think I was 6. Now that the memory's coming back more vividly. So how about peace and joy? I'm at peace. Yeah, it happened. Did I enjoy it in the moment? You know what? It did. It felt good. But something inside of me didn't want to keep doing that. So something within me said, that's not your path. But if I was meant to go down that path of kissing girls, then that would have been clear to me. But why get the mind all afraid of turning into salt, a pillar of salt, and then live the rest of your life fearing, gay people and having all these beliefs about others because grandma told me something that wasn't true because she was afraid because somebody taught her about a fearful God that wasn't true, who was afraid, who was taught by somebody else. And we can go back and trace through the lineage of misinformation. And eventually we'll get to who started that nonsense. It's like the game of hot potato. Who started that nonsense, or not the hot potato, but the telephone game? Who started changing the truth into things that are not true? And if we go far back, we will all come back to where God is, one essence from where everything that's possible emanates. So we've got to take our mind all the way to where it all starts. And it all starts with a creative source that is loving, that it just loves to create because that's all it can do, because it's energy taking shape, and you and I are the opportunity for it to experience and create some more. So it goes on to say, so after we make the decision to make that place ready in our mind, they are not welcomed gladly by a mind that has instead received the gifts it made where his belong as substitutes for them. We cannot receive the goodness, the joy, the happiness that is ours, the peace that belongs to us, because the mind needs correction. This is why the Course in Miracles is written on 2 levels. It's written at the psychological level, heady, it's information, and at the mystical, metaphysical level, physical or spiritual, so you can feel it. So take a second to feel into the truth of these words. A God that creates from love created us to experience joy and peace. How does that feel in your body? That truth carries a resonance, a frequency. If your field, your emotional field is clear, you can feel the high frequency of love, joy, peace. Your body is going to be relaxed, at ease. That's where well-being comes from. A body that is not holding the density of lies. A body at the mental level that takes what the mind knows and feels it. And as we feel that lightness, the body is relaxed and at peace. People who are in joy and peace cannot bother themselves with judging, because to judge, you got to condense, you got to get tense, you got to think you're being attacked, you've got to go into defensive mode. And if you go into defensive mode, the energy of love is not emotion, so it contracts and it feels tight and tense, and it doesn't feel good because you're listening to a voice in the head that whatever it is that's happening is not good, it's wrong, it's bad, it's been judged. So Course in Miracles is going to meet you wherever you're at. If feeling into what does living as God created you in joy and in peace, if you can feel that and go, oh my God, yeah, that's the truth of who I am, then look at the resistance, look at the blocks to that. Maybe you can do it as I'm speaking this, but you go, in 3 hours and you have an appointment and somebody cuts you off in traffic and you go tight and tense, then you couldn't take this with you and have it be consistent. So when you are inconsistent with feeling the peace and the joy that you are, that's when you do your work. You can't do your work from peace and joy to experience discomfort, because you're not in discomfort. You got to wait for the irritation to become the invitation to see the egos in action, to see the ego's motivation then. This is a lesson to give us the opportunity to seek only the truth of who we are. If joy and peace is your truth, because you're supposed to experience life from a place of happiness, that becomes a benchmark that everything else gets measured on. And if you are committed, as I have been, I don't tolerate my mind wandering into egoic thoughts. I don't tolerate it. As soon as I catch it, as soon as I see it, oftentimes as it's coming up, I'm observing it. I forgive myself for believing something that's not true immediately, instantaneously. It almost don't even have to think it. The love just goes and surrounds it and says, you know what? That's an old thought. I'm not going to think that anymore. But wherever you are in tolerating thoughts that create discomfort, then you haven't made the commitment to seek but the truth that God has given us. And then make a commitment. You choose again. I'm going to choose again to think only peace and joy are my standard. That is the benchmark that I'm going to operate my life from. And when that is the absolute truth for you, you won't accept the substitutes that we have learned, taught to us by people who were misinformed. My sweet grandmother taught me so many things that were not true, but yet she was the love of my life. Probably the one person in this whole world that when I was a child that I felt the absolute most unconditional love from was my abuelita. And she's the one who taught me the most lies, because she conditioned me with all this Catholic stuff of fear and judgment. And anyways, God being Father on a cloud, punishing people and turning them into salt. So it's really fascinating how much I had to forgive my abuelita for telling me those things. But I was able to forgive her for spreading lies because she didn't know what she was doing. She was doing the best that she could. She wanted to be a good grandmother, and she wanted me to have what she had that kept her on the straight and narrow. Well, I didn't come here to be on the straight and narrow. I came here to zigzag. So I had to take what she said feel the fears that, oh my God, I'm disappointing my abuelita, to eventually find my own voice and decide to be as God created me. And we all have that opportunity, but we have to decide, am I going to seek only what belongs to me in truth, or am I going to keep believing things that are childish and immature and create suffering? Paragraph number 2 says, today we would remove all meaningless and self-made gifts which we have placed upon the holy altar where God's gifts belong. God's are the gifts that are our own in truth. Peace and joy are mine. Happiness is my reality. If I'm not in that state, I no longer pretend that I am when I'm not. I tell myself the truth, and then I do the correction at the place where I can correct, at the mind place, at the level of thinking. His are the gifts that we inherited before time was, and that will still be ours when time has passed into eternity. If those gifts were there before we took a physical vessel on, then that means they're part of our energy. If they're there after time passes and the body decays and ashes to ashes, if they're there afterwards, then it must be in my energy. So if they're there before, they're there afterwards, they're in the energy that propels this body to have an experience. So I have to make a decision that if the truth is that joy and peace are mine before and after this incarnation, why am I not experiencing during this incarnation? Only because the mind blocks them from our awareness by believing things that are not true. So his are the gifts that are within us now, for they are timeless, and we need not wait to have them. They belong to us today. There is no need to delay the inevitable. And it's inevitable because it's always been there forever. We're just giving ourselves permission to receive what has always been ours. Paragraph 3, therefore we choose to have them now and know in choosing them in place of what we made up. Abuelita was given misinformation by figure out who made it up. I had to trace my Catholic roots all the way to the year 325, I think it was. After Jesus died, that's when the Catholic Church was created. So I went all the way there to when the Catholic Church was created, saw the politics, the shenanigans of creating the New Testament, what gospels were in there. I understood the politics, and then I went, all these fearful people trying to control people's thinking, they made all this stuff up. I want to know what Jesus knows, and only Jesus knows the truth. So I began to study him before the Catholic Church began to describe him to me. So you correct your mind so you can get back to where the truth is. Therefore, we choose to have the truth now. God said, love God. Jesus said, love God, love your neighbor as yourself. So I'm loving myself enough to release what is not true. I love my neighbors because they are operating either with truth or not truth. That's it. And if they are operating from truth, they're happy, joyful, peaceful people. I don't need to categorize them. Oh, they're a Republican, that's why they're happy, or they're a liberal, that's why they're happy. No, they're just happy people. It doesn't matter what their affiliations in other ways are. Are they happy? Yes. Can we connect at the place where we're happy? Yeah. Do we want more people to have this happiness, this peace? Yes. What can we do to expand this? Then we connect there, not on taking sides that divide us and segregate us into being at odds with our neighbors. So we got to pull out from that insanity that was trained into us, because it's not natural for children to be segregated. It's natural for children to want to play with anybody that is fun to play with. As a child, I only want to play with who was fun. If you were not fun, I didn't hang out with you. But it wasn't because of your skin color, your gender, your age. None of that had to do with it. You gravitate natural to where there's joy. Then he goes on to say, well, let me read this again. It's a long sentence, paragraph 3. Therefore, we choose to have them now and know in choosing them in place of what our ego made, we but unite our will with what God wills and recognize the same as being one. If God wants me to be happy and I experience happiness, God wants me to be peaceful and I experience peace, then I'm uniting with the energy that I'm made of. I'm accepting the energy I'm made of. And guess what? That energy is the energy of God. There aren't two energies here. There's only one energy. It's an energy that is flowing with the truth, or it's been blocked by man-made beliefs, man-made lies. That's what we are understanding, that when you get your mind back to the level of thinking with the Holy Spirit, thinking with your soul self, you now are merged with God. This is where you are one with the Creator. I am one with the Father, Mother, God. I know that that's my reality. My work now is, how do I bring that into my physicality so that in this world I can be the bringer of the love, the light, the joy, the peace that God created me to be. Our longer practice periods today, because we're doing a lesson, our longer practice periods today, the hourly 5 minutes given truth for your salvation, should begin with this. You know how simple the Course tells us, 5 minutes, every hour, 5 minutes. Dedicate to saying this so that your mind remembers the truth of who you are. I seek but what belongs to me in truth, and joy and peace are my inheritance. So we train our mind by repeating. You repeat it, and then you're going to fake it till you make it. You're going to repeat it, and you may be able to experience it the first 3 hours of the morning. But by the afternoon, you're all caught up in your judgment and your anger and your whatever. All right, start over again. Start back again after you observe the mind doing that, and bring yourself back into alignment. So you state that. Then lay aside the conflicts of the world that offer other gifts and other goals made of illusions, witnessed to by them, and sought for only in a world of dream. So you acknowledge that joy and peace are your inheritance, but you're in anger. Put the anger down. Let me find out, where did this come from? You feel the feels, feel the anger. Where are you held in my body? You're in my back shoulder. What is that about? Oh, I'm afraid because when I was little, maybe I got hit. My dad slapped me and that's where it hit me. Or I had a boyfriend that broke up with me, and when he broke up with me, he pushed me and it hit my back shoulder. So back there, I feel my sadness, my anger, my whatever it is. We stored whatever experiences we couldn't process in our immature minds, child's mind, or not even child's mind, in our immature, unaware self, until we became more aware to process it with compassion, with forgiveness, with kindness. So you have to make a decision. Do you believe what you picked up in the world, or do you believe what is constant for your whole eternal life? Do you pick up what happened here, or what is of you eternally? Because this incarnation, you pick up stuff. That incarnation, you pick up stuff. That weighs us down when we're traveling with all that heavy luggage. We want to travel through our incarnations, enjoy them in peace, in love, in understanding, in creativity, which is where we're headed in the 5th dimension. But we got to unpack those suitcases and drop all the density of those learned things that are not true. Paragraph 4 says, all this we lay aside, all that heaviness, all that ego made up stuff, we lay aside and seek instead that which is truly ours. As we ask to recognize what God has given us, we got to sort it out. If it feels good, if it feels peaceful, if it feels light, it's of God. If it feels heavy, feels dense, it's of ego. We need to clear our emotional body enough so we can feel what is of God, high frequency, what is of ego, low frequency. When we can feel density and contrast it to lightness, then we know what we're shifting from. So we can shift and release, lift, and expand. We clear a holy place within our minds before his altar. It's amazing. Our mind, there's an altar to God in our mind. When we clear our mind and stop believing what is not true, our mind remembers God, where his gift of peace and joy are welcome, and to which we come to find what has been given us by him. So where meditation takes us into the altar, where we leave all the thinking and we enter into that quiet, peaceful place We do it through meditation, through the mind. And then, of course, we feel it, because when the mind is aligned with God, the heart opens up. Then love flows. We become wholehearted. Then we love all that is. We recognize everything is either love or a call for love. We compassionately deal with what's in front of us. We don't think it and judge it, because we're in the altar with God. What would God think about this? Nothing. God would just want to do the next appropriate thing. The heart does it with love. The mind does it knowing the next appropriate thing. Sentence 3 says in paragraph 4, we come in confidence today, aware that what belongs to us in truth is what he gives. God didn't give us anything that wasn't loving, that wasn't joy, that wasn't high frequency. And we would wish for nothing else, for nothing else belongs to us in truth. You know, my grandmother telling me that I was going to turn into a pillar of salt, or people turn into a pillar of salt. She never knew I kissed my cousin. Now that she's hearing this, she's probably turning in her grave. But anyways, just putting that fear in the mind of a child is crazy. But the child that loves its grandparents receives it as the truth, as the gospel. So we've got to purify our mind and become like a little child again before we had those beliefs that created fear, so we can return to our sense of wonder, our sense of curiosity, our sense of exploration. So what if you kiss, boys, girls, whatever, frogs, it doesn't matter. I kiss my dog, I've kissed my cat. We don't judge those things, but whoever we kiss, that's between you and that being. And if there's love there, why not? If there's not love there, then you're learning something. But we've got to move out of this rigid way of categorizing right and wrong, and allow ourselves to just experience. And then your being tells you, my being said, no, kissing girls wasn't for me. I tried it again one more time. I think I was maybe late 30s, could have been maybe 40. And it still wasn't for me. But why not? Still wasn't for me, because my truth was my truth, and that wasn't going to change. Paragraph 5. So do we clear the way for him today by simply recognizing that his will is done already. God already made me joyful and peaceful and happy. It's done. And the joy and peace belong to us as his eternal gifts. Is mine forever. We will not let ourselves lose sight of them between the times we come to seek for them where he has laid them. This reminder will we bring to mind as often as we can. I seek but what belongs to me in truth. So beautiful. I seek but what belongs to me in truth. God's gifts of joy and peace are all I want. And I think I just realized we might have done this same lesson last week. Now that I'm thinking about it, it feels so familiar, but the sharing has been so totally different. So it clearly needed to have been repeated, because Kat, you recognize that, huh? You too. I just got to the very bottom and noticed I read this on 8/3, August 3rd. But how perfect that I don't make myself wrong. It is what it is. It had to be repeated. So there must be some very important recognition about why this particular lesson is so necessary today. We have to seek only one thing. We cannot keep seeking conflicted goals. We have to seek one goal. And if you're not in joy and in peace, look at the ways that you're blocking the truth. And because to me, Course in Miracles says the same thing, it's hard to say that I already read this when every page says the same thing to me. So for those of you who are who may listen to this and go, oh my God, we already did this. Please forgive me, forgive yourself for judging, but receive it as clearly an important lesson that needed to be repeated. But I won't repeat it next week unless I'm told to repeat it. Next week, we'll go to lesson 105. But anyhow, share if you have any comments about this. Please unmute yourself. Let me hear from you. And thank you so much for being part of this Patreon channel. And we've got a few more people that have joined recently, so it's exciting. Word's getting out, so I appreciate it. Welcome to you whenever you watch this, to Rose and Lisa joined us, and it's just so much fun. So Kat, when did you realize that you already heard this lesson? Were you like me at the very end?
No, I realized it quite a while ago, and I thought, well, I'm just going to get another, it's not going to be the exact same, and it wasn't, because when you did the drawing of the different, that was really good, the soul, body, and then the mental, emotional, physical. I'm a visual person. I'm not as much a auditor, but of course I can understand things, but I'm definitely visual. So that was really, it was helpful to me. Nothing new, but just clarity about it. So, and I started thinking of my daughters, one in particular, when you said, forgive the hurt that we experience at the hands of others. And my thought was, I wonder if I could do that with her. But where I need to start, obviously, is here, not there. And I'm having problems with my knee. So when you said knee, what would you have me know? I'm going to sit down with my knee later, or after, and just have that conversation. It's totally appropriate. And
enter with no expectation. So enter with the curiosity of a child. I don't know what I'm going to find. And just enter with curiosity and allow the information just to arise. It will come into your awareness. If not immediately, it will come at the right and appropriate time, even if it takes hours or a day. But you will get guidance. You just have to not be attached for when it comes or what it tells you. But this is a process of just allowing the body to inform you. On Friday, when we do the Q&A, I'm going to bring that image that I have. It's a better drawing, so that way you can see it and we can talk about it more specifically. Because yes, so many of us are visual learners, and the visuals help me tremendously. And you'll see how the knee and where that is in the hierarchy of the way that we need to address what's happening on this physical plane.
Yeah. So anyway, it was good. I figured there was a reason that, as we know, there are no accidents. So there was a reason that we repeated it. And so cool.
Exactly. So I want to drop some information here. Next week, I'm going to go see my daughter in Colorado. So we will meet on the 17th. So we'll have this conversation on the 17th, but on Friday, I should have that Friday. That should happen. The following week, on the 24th of August, I fly back on Wednesday. So we will not have a gathering on Wednesday, but I'll text everybody that morning to remind you.
Okay.
So I'll see you Friday for our Q&A. I'll see you Wednesday the 17th and the 19th for the Q&A. And then the 24th, we will not meet for this Wednesday call.
Okay, what is it? Is on the 19th? Is that I have so much trouble with Friday mornings and weekends, but
I get it, but they'll be recorded. So it'll be recorded at 3:00 in the 3 Eastern time. And I don't know if you've listened to some of the ones that we've done, but some really great questions. Last week, we talked about extraterrestrials and incarnation, really fun stuff. Crystal asked a question a couple weeks ago about the real meaning of the resurrection, and that was really cool. So just listen whenever you can. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I so appreciate you guys.
We appreciate you.
Totally. And Miss Dondra, did you have any thoughts about today's conversation? You may not be where you can chat, but anyways, we'll give it a minute to see if you want to mute yourself. If not, we will connect next time.
Oh, hi. It was just so funny. I looked at this lesson 104 and I thought, why should we take a lot of notes on this? Must have been important at some point. I didn't remember we did it last week, but I on the side, let go of anything that is not necessary in your life. So I thought, okay, that's appropriate today also.
Every day it's appropriate. You're meant to be peaceful and happy. Let go of anything that gets in the way of that. But we can't let it go until we feel where it came from, feel the density that might still be there, and know that there's nothing holding the righteousness of that experience. But what a journey, huh? What a journey. Thank you for being on this journey with me. So much fun. I love you ladies, and I love every one of our other Patreon partners. It's just so exciting to see the community growing. I'll see you next week, or I'll see you Friday. Bye.
Bye-bye.